Another episode of 15 Impala Reassembly. We are working on the rocker moldings this morning, and of course you can't find, unless you're lucky enough to find NOS ones and pay the money for them. The best bet is Auto City, as is for just about everything. Real nice reproduction rocker molding set. They are advertised as, quote, "This reproduction is exact right down to the clips used for mounting. No difference from NOS." Well, I called them on that because this is the clip that you get with the kit. This is an original clip, which NOS should look like, only clean and anodized. These holes on the top and the bottom are for clipping into these two big holes. And that is not correct. The clips that are supplied appear to have some spring tension in them. That's why this one looks like it's been installed, because I did install it on the car to find out. The reason for these is so that they don't lose their tension and the rocker becomes loose. So I'm going to try them with this, because if we want to take them off and fix them later, it's not that big of an operation. And they should hold just fine with the spring tension that's on those. There's 4 of these on each side, plus the back retainer and the front retainer. So now that we're talking about back and front retainers, the screw that they send with the kit is not correct. It's a flat-headed anodized number 8 screw, and it is in no way, shape, or form correct. It's also too long. Here's the screw, and as you can see, there's no round head on the top, and it's just a regular zinc-plated 1-inch screw. So that's not correct. If you had an Impala that came out of the factory with Bel Air fenders and didn't have the correct mounting nut welded in the fender, it would have had this sheet metal screw. It's a number 10 head, bevel top, round top, beveled head, about 3/4. It should be 3/4 of an inch long. This is only 1/2 inch long. And since we're talking about this, the different size screws that you deal with, you don't realize, unless you've done this a lot, what you're looking at. This thread is a number 10 thread, a number 8 thread, and these two are number 6 threads. Now the threads have size numbers, 10, 8, 6, but also the heads have sizes. This is a number, let me see, this is a number 10 head, a number 8 head, and that's on the number 8 threaded screw. This is a number 6, or number 8 head on a number 6 threaded screw, and this is a number 6 head on a number 6 thread screw. And those are normally used for chrome trim. You'll see on the interior of the car, that's what most of those are. And then they also have them, if they have a little washer on them, then they were through upholstery. So they make them that number 6 head screw just like that, only with a washer, a fixed washer. It doesn't come off of the screw itself. So that's a little lesson on the different screws. So what an Impala has is, and I'll post a picture of this in the video if I can, but on an Impala fender has a nut welded in this hole. And when these cars are so old, you hardly ever see a car with the nut still intact. And chances are, when you're doing body work on the fender, the welds will break and that nut will come out. The fix for that is a cage nut. They're cheap at the hardware store. Well, actually, they're not cheap at the hardware store, but you can get them at most hardware stores. And it's a 12/24 thread. The original one is a welded-in nut, square nut, 12/24 thread. So I use these cage nuts on the Impala fenders. And all Impalas will have a square hole unless for some reason, you know, during assembly they ran out of Impala fenders and they used a Bel Air fender, and then it would just have a hole drilled there in that location for the front rocker molding screw. And again, that should be a number 10 thread with a number 10 head. Now the other thing is, when you're putting these cars back together, there is a screw. There's two clips. There's supposed to be a screw that holds the center of the clip. So the original one would be like this, and it goes down like this, because that one just fits in the bottom hole like that, and then to top you use a pair of pliers and you flip that up and it holds it in there, and then the screw is a secondary retaining mechanism. Well, these screws are number 6 screws from the factory with a number little 6 button head screw. But once they've been in and out like this, you'll probably have to use a number 8 thread screw just to get enough bite. And I would do that anyway with these new clips, because the spring tension, that little number 6 thread is not going to hold the spring tension very well, even if it does hold. So, and these are a number 6 hole, so you're going to have to enlarge the hole to another size bigger so this 8 screw will fit in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and use a number 8 screw thread to put these on, and they do retain that spring tension. See, they're not flat. The factory ones are flat, and I'm sure they make these, and they do appear to, I've already had this installed and taken off, and it retained its spring tension. So that's what you need to know on 58 Impala rocker moldings. Here's another entry in the 58 Impala reassembly. We got the right-hand rocker molding on, the aftermarket one from Auto City. It's a good quality piece, but there are several things you really need to do to protect your paint when you put this together. So I'm going to go through those steps. I'm also going to go through what to do about these screws. Previously I told you that was a 1024 cage nut that was in the fender, or actually a square nut welded in the fender, but a cage nut will suffice. So I went to the hardware store and they didn't have 1224 anything, so I was able to get 1024 and a 1024 stainless 1-inch screw that had the correct profile for the head. So that looks just like it should from the factory, and it's a domed profile. So we did that, and then also on the other side, apparently it wasn't an Impala fender, but I do believe it's the original fender, so maybe it happened to the factory, maybe not, who knows. Anyway, this is the correct profile. So this is a number 10 by 1 inch with a number 8 head, I believe. But that's what was available at the hardware store, and they're all stainless. And then for these, the holes were a little small. So this is a number 10 tech screw, sheet metal screw. You can get it at the hardware store. It's a number 10 self-tapping. Yes, a number 10. So a number 8 thread screw is what was originally in those holes on the rocker that we talked about. But I needed one size bigger because they were spinning out. So this is what we're doing, and then I'll show you a little trick that I use to keep the paint safe and be able to line this up and get it on without messing up the paint. So we'll get to that in a minute. Alright, just so you know, this is a number 10 by 3/4 tech screw, or sheet metal framing screw. Has a good profile. A lot of the 58 screws had this profile, so it's accurate to use. It probably had a button head, but on these replacement clips, that hole, you can't just push this through here, and that's perfect. So you want to thread this through all the way, and then make sure it spins at the bottom like that. So when you put it on the car, you can put this up there and put it in the hole. Okay, so how these fit, they're just perfect. With this car already being painted before I got it, I didn't have a chance to pre-fit all this stuff. But as you can see, this screw fits perfectly in there. Just the drill head goes through, and then the threads go in. And this is why you want this to spin in the clip before you put it up here. Now I'm not going to tighten this all the way down because I'll show you what we're doing. Now, to prep for doing these rockers, I highly recommend you take the rear wheel off, because you need to get back here at this location, and there's only about 2 or 3 inches of room between the tire. Makes it much easier. I'm also putting some tape along the top edge so I don't mar the paint. And what I do with this tape is I run my hand along the back of it so it isn't real sticky. So when you have the rocker on here, you can pull the tape up out. So here is how you want these. They're just loose. We're on there right now. And I'll show you why here in a sec. I also put tape where the front is located, so I'm not marring up my fender as I put this on. And I do the same thing here, is this tape is real loose, so I can pull it up and out from behind the rocker after it's in place. So what I did is I took milk jug, which is what I had, and I used a little bit thicker antifreeze jug, and I cut 4 each of these, one to go in the top, one to go in the bottom. That because what you have to do is you have to tighten this clip on, and then you have to put the rocker on here and slip it down behind there. Once it's down behind there, you have to pull it back up under this and find the happy medium. After you do that, you tighten your front and your rear, and then it's done. And then after that, you can pull these out nice and easy without messing up your paint. Because otherwise, you'd be running up and down with your rocker on your paint. So I'll show you what that looks like as soon as we get this set up. And there's another step that you'll want to do. One more thing you want to make sure of when you're putting these clips on. Trying to get it to focus. Is you're responsible to make those as straight up and down as you can. Now the factory had locator holes top and bottom. And these new clips do not have those locator holes. So when you put these on, you have to make sure that you put them on straight up and down, or as close to it as you can. So they're perpendicular to the rocker panel when they go on. It's a very important step. You don't want them cockeyed in there. You want them straight up and down. Here's another very important part of prep. This is the clip that they have manufactured to go in the rear, to hold the rear. And it goes on this edge. It goes in here like this. That's about the correct orientation. And obviously it's not going to stay. So a couple of things you need to do. First of all, I put a ball of butyl in here. And then I put this in. And let the butyl keep it in place. Otherwise it's going to flop everywhere. But you want to make sure it goes in like that, all the way. Now, this has to go in all the way like that. The other thing is to keep this from moving, you want to take a screwdriver or something and crimp it right here behind the clip and right here behind the clip. Be very careful so you don't mar up the outside. Now there's a strengthening plate here, so you're not going to scratch it or make a dent in it from the back. But the other thing you have to be aware of is the first one I put on, this stud spun. So I had a nut on it in the car and it was spinning. So I'd take my die grinder and cut a slot in it like this and hold it with a screwdriver to tighten it up. So before I put this one on, I'm going to put a spot weld here so that nut will not, or that stud will not spin. I highly recommend that. These parts are probably made in China or somewhere overseas, and they're not in there sufficiently hard enough to not spin. Couple more things at this stage. I've welded the back of this so I know that stud's not going to turn on me this time. And now you just want to crimp this down by hand so that doesn't pull out and come out of place on you. And it's not that hard to do, as you can see. That way, between the butyl and this is going to stay in place. There. It's supposed to, anyway. If I get it done right. There. There, now that can't come out of there. There. And you can get it in there and it'll stay. Because once you get this lined up, you have to snug these so it doesn't shift up and down and come off of your clips. The other thing is, because the hole these go through is huge and it's actually slotted, so you have some movement to get it up and down. You have to put butyl, you have to use a big fender washer, 1/4 inch fender washer, and put butyl around it so when it goes on the back, it seals that hole so you don't get mud and water and whatever from the tires coming past there in the back of that. And then this is what would originally be on it, but since these are aftermarket, these don't work because it doesn't have enough, when you're putting these on, it doesn't have enough to reach that nut. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a nylock 1/4 inch nut. Worked out really well. It ended up being all the way down there when we're done. The only modifications I'm trying to do is stuff that can easily be changed because it's such an original car. But the next step is kind of important, so we'll go set this up and show you that.
Mine tends to.
Okay, I've got this crimped in here, and you can see how well to the back of the stud. But I also had to correct something. You need a right and a left of these clips. They sent me 2 rights. So it would not work on the driver's side, the left-hand side. So I had to grind the back of the stud off and reverse the stud and put it back in here, and then I weld it. So now it should fit properly, but always check your hardware. Make sure that you have a left and a right. Fit them up in here before you start. Or just roll with the flow like I did. Either way, just know that these aftermarket parts, the vendors are buying them from suppliers, and they aren't all guaranteed. So this is just part of what you run into in restorations. Just be prepared to fix it. Okay, it's good to have some help. And I've got a couple of cute little helpers. It's my lovely wife. Okay, so what we're doing here is now, at this stage, you have to mark where the clips are on this. You want to mark the area where they're at, top and bottom, in each location, each 4 locations. And the reason is the profile on this, if you can see this, well, you can't really see it, but they go down like this. So at the locations where those are, you have to bring those up at a little angle so they're flat with the body, so they will go behind the clips. If you don't do that, you will never get this rocker to clip behind the clips. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take it over the table and just push those up, pull those up with a straight bladed screwdriver in the locations where the clips are. So all you have to do is between those 2 marks, just take a screwdriver and raise them up just a little bit like this so that they are can you see that profile right there? Where you just, yeah, I'm just pulling the lip up so it's not rolled under so that this metal will go behind the clips. And you have to do that on top and the bottom. And you only have to do it in this area where the clip is. See, there's my marks. Just want to make sure you get it a little bit beyond your marks. Here's my marks. My first mark. So start there. And there's my second mark, and I've got it done. There's my mark. So you do this to each 4 locations. And now when we put this up there, you slide the top down, put the bottom in, and push the top up just enough so both of them capture, and then you tighten both ends and you're done. You can pull your plastic out after that and pull your tape out. Once they're set, I loosen one end and pull my tape out of the front, tighten it back down. Then go to the back and I loosen the back and pull the tape out and tighten it back down, and it's done, it's set. That's it. Okay, the driver's rocker's on, and now it's all tightened up. Everything, the clips were all tightened up previously. Both ends are tight, so now we just pull these out from behind the clips, and the paint is safe, and the rocker is tight. And that's how it's done. My little marks here will come off with alcohol or acetone, and there it is. Just got to put the wheels back on and I can let it down.